everybody to episode 9 of See You at Mike's. I'm Trevor,
I'm Tyler.
I'm Prem.
and here we are. We're all together in the same
Yeah.
spot for the very first time.
Ever. We've never met each other before.
Yeah,
This
this
is kind
is
of
like, we've
crazy.
only just been friends via the stream, so this is pretty wild.
They feel exactly as I imagined.
Yeah,
You're a bit more crunchier.
I am quite crunchy right now.
So what's up? How we feeling?
I'm excited to be
I'm
doing this
excited.
together.
Yeah.
I really like being with you guys, so it's
Yeah.
nice in general.
And
Yeah.
this is like the attitude that we started the stream with, where we would just kind of get together and sit and talk for
Right.
hours and just kind of let it go to whatever like weird spot it would. And that's what we were doing on the stream. Just instead of hanging out and doing it, we were doing it virtually.
It's good we're in a basement too, because I feel like that's our natural habitat of letting things go. And kinda
Basement dwellers.
Like, I mean, I feel like that attitude first came from your basement.
Yeah, my basement. We hung out in your basement.
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
time in Prem's basement
Yeah.
for sure.
Like a lot of like sort of like lucidity in your basement, I feel like. I
Yeah,
mean,
my basement was party town for sure.
I kind of
But not
prescribed
like-
that too to like when we watched Game of Thrones that one time, and that was my first time watching it, and I fell asleep like 3 minutes into the show.
Yeah, my basement wasn't like rager party town, but
No.
it was like
Like crazy.
everyone was free,
Like high on life.
high on life. Yeah, I feel that.
So we're in our natural habitat,
Basement dwellers.
basement dwellers. So, we got dinner earlier at Paradiso,
Paradiso.
which is, I mean, when I come home, I'm very eager to go to Paradiso with these guys just because New York has wonderful food all over the place, authentic food, food made from the people, from the cultures. But sometimes, you just want a very Americanized version of Mexican food. So Paradiso supplemented that for me. But one thing we were talking about was actually something that was brought up, Trevor, what we were at like a friend's place earlier. And one thing that came up was like tryhards. Like we made a joke about tryhards.
Mhm.
And for those of you that maybe are like not familiar with the term, or just like haven't heard in a while, tryhards, like it's a term that plagues most boys aged 13 to 18 and girls as well in different ways. But from our experiences as like guys, it's like any expression of earnestness and passion or a commitment to really trying to do something is not cool.
Right.
Yeah. Started in gym class and then like bled over
Oh
to
yeah.
all
Yeah.
of life.
Well, it's funny that it starts in gym class because the people that use try hard the most are also like usually pretty good at gym class.
Mhm.
And like they do try hard in gym class. It's not as if they're hiding. When you're playing dodgeball, the kids that use try hard are also the kids that are good at dodgeball.
Right.
And they don't hide the fact that they're good at
Yeah, they'll
dodgeball.
fuck you up. They'll hit you right in the head, and then
Yeah.
like, you'll rip one out of them. Try hard.
Yeah, after they just whipped one at
Yeah.
you. With effort. It's not as if they weren't trying. They definitely tried. It's not
Tried.
as if they're Superman.
Everyone definitely tried in gym class, especially like co-ed. Like if there's girls there and you're doing some physical activity. I think we brought this up earlier. Someone was like, you do some cool thing and you get some action. It's like that's what I felt like gym class was like if I did something cool enough, all the girls would like me. And so like I think part of the try hard thing was that sort of, I mean we'll get into this idea, but like if you're trying too hard it doesn't look cool. So you have to do cool shit to get the ladies. And also while you're doing that cool shit, it has to look like you're not trying to do the cool shit.
Yeah.
And so anyone who is doing cool shit or not, if they're trying, they're already on the wrong foot.
Yeah. But let's go back. So,
Yeah.
like you said,
Yeah, sorry.
we starts from gym class or other similar younger spheres when we're 12 or 13 and it develops. So what's the thread and arc of tryhardism
Right.
in elementary, middle, and high school?
It's just like a basic like value thing. Like people want to feel validated for what they're doing, but when it becomes this sort of I don't know, when it becomes something that you can understand looking out of your eyes at what other people are doing, as when you see someone try really hard and they're just not doing anything cool, it looks like, I don't know, sad in some way. Like I can remember something like, if you're not as athletic and things didn't come as naturally, if you're less coordinated and they had to put in a lot more effort to keep up,
Yeah.
it, like, those were the kids that would get made fun of. Those were the uncool, like, nerdy kids. And so there's that association. And so perhaps it was like, oh, I gotta, like, not try to not be like these kids that are putting in a bunch of effort.
Right. Yeah.
I think where I see this, my perception of it is, let's say you have like in a gym class, you've got someone that looks like they're putting the effort in, they get called a try hard because effort is not cool. What's cool is just like chilling out and not really doing much.
Yeah.
And so like you would get shamed for like putting effort and like laying into
Right.
things because like you weren't being cool. It's like, what are you doing? Just be cool. Just relax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Hannibal Buress's joke, I've already mentioned him again to David. He's like,
Yeah.
people think that I'm high all the time. They're like, Hannibal, are you high all the time? And he's like, I'm not high. I'm just cooler than you. Yeah, because like
Right.
you just have people that you just want to be cool and you want everyone to think you're cool, so you just like relax and you don't like put effort into like these
Right.
things or like get seeing it, like giving a shit about anything because that's uncool.
It's
Yeah.
another, like, armoring, like another defense mechanism.
You're not
like,
invested in
yeah, if I can
things.
separate myself from this thing, even if it doesn't work out right, then I don't
Yeah.
have to take responsibility for not being something that I want to be.
Which is interesting too, just how, if you feel as if you're liberated from the whole tryhardism thing,
Right.
there's still a tendency in general to not want to be too invested in things
Right.
or to be too much, to live too much, we shelter ourselves in so many ways
Yeah.
that some of these instincts, even though they get maybe perverted or twisted in different ways, that's still a problem for
Yeah.
people generally, of just not wanting to, or maybe not actively not wanting to, but just rejecting
Mm-hmm.
becoming too much into something.
Yeah. That, like, I kind of came into contact with some of that out at the center of, like, if I don't do something good enough, like, how can I play the game of, like, allowing myself to be foolish, to, like, fail and move through that, but also not separate myself from the failing by saying, like, oh yeah, it's totally fine, it's like whatever. Or, like, how can I not defend myself from failing and being foolish? Because there's a way of, like, if I accept that I'm a fool, then I can use that as a defense mechanism to say, oh, I messed up this thing, haha, that's because I'm the fool, like, whatever. It doesn't actually hurt me, it just kind of, like, bounces off because that's who I am, whatever. But I think there's a way that you can do it where you're like, oh, I am the fool, but I'm still gonna give it my best. I'm still gonna, like, I'm gonna try to keep the place as clean. I'm gonna, like, mow the lawn or whatever. But if I didn't do it right, I thought I had more time, I procrastinated, and I failed at it, then I can also, like, not even necessarily take responsibility, but somewhere in the similar vein of, like, still accept that failure as being a part of what happened, but not push it out of myself or not try to, like, fight it or defend from it in any way.
Yeah.
Because
And-
that's what I think the try hard thing is some sort of fighting of this. I'm soft and vulnerable in some place, so I'm gonna fight it by acting a certain way.
Yeah, and the former thing that you were saying of like accepting, oh, I'm just the fool, this is just how it works, is also super toxic because you just internalize it
Yeah.
and you just put yourself down for no reason.
Yeah.
Like the self-deprecating.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, self-deprecating humor is often, something a lot of people rely on, a
It's
little
a hit
mechanism.
right now, man.
Yeah,
It's trendy.
totally. But
If you want to be up with the trends, make fun of yourself. You
But-
know?
also, if you're a friend of someone and you see someone constantly falling into that,
Yeah.
I feel like you should kind of, I don't know,
Oh.
advocate for them in a way.
Yeah,
I don't know.
someone at the camp that I worked at, when anyone would use a self-deprecating humor, they would be like, "Don't talk to my friend like that."
Yeah.
So someone would be like,
Right.
"Oh, yeah, I'm not like this or whatever." And they'd be like, "Don't talk to my friend like that."
Yeah.
And people are like,
That's
"Whoa,
good.
But
That's,
it's
that's
quite-
legit."
it's-
Oh
yeah.
God.
it's
yeah.
a it's a light way to approach it.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to sort of advocate for that person, you have to be like, hey, I get that we're just like bullshit and like it's all in good fun. I don't want to like make it too serious.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be a tryhard about this.
But there you go.
Like I don't know, like what's going on? Like
Yeah.
I think we could do better with our humor here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, I mean, the amount of energy that we put into defending ourselves from being hurt, I mean,
Yeah.
probably for a lot of people, especially younger people who don't have outlets of expending energy that require it, such as like the bills, the child responsibility of rearing a child, these sort of things that we associate with adulthood, the amount of energy that we have to try to defend ourselves from the world, I think maybe is a big part of creating these sort of cycles of like, how can I make myself feel the safest as possible at all the time?
Yeah.
And like that's cool, but like what are you giving up in doing that? And how are you hurting yourself in doing that?
Yeah.
Because with self-deprecating humor, you might feel safe.
Yeah.
But you also feel alone.
Well, because you're taking ownership of the thing before it hits you. You can't.
Yeah.
No one can say, "Oh, you're stupid" or "You're bad
Right.
at something," because I already said it.
Yeah.
I beat you to the punchline.
There's this like a GIF or whatever, little video of a guy who's like texting was like, "Hey, I know your IP. I hacked you. I got all your passwords and stuff." And he's like, "Cool, yeah, so do I."
Yeah. Right. Yeah. There it is. There it is.
Well, I'm gonna leak them. He's like, "Not if I don't leak them first."
yeah. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Real quick though, Ledge Fox joined Hannah and I on one of our Living at the Centers, and they said, "Hey, what's up?" They're Brazilian. It would be a middle schooler for us. I don't know how their school system works, but
Oh, cool.
what's up, Ledge Fox?
Cheers. Happy you're here.
It's nice that you get the chat from the stream like right there in the song.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is mine and Trevor's first time seeing things behind the scenes because usually SWAT does the hosting
Yeah.
and we're just zooming and sort of toggling between the chat and
Yeah, I've got Zoom on one half, Discord on the other half, and then Twitch on my phone so I
Yeah.
can read the comments.
Yeah.
But SWAT gets the one-stop shop.
Yeah.
And this is their first times in the studio where I usually record.
yeah.
The laptop's just backwards, and I usually shoot it that way.
Yeah.
Fun fact: I used to live in this room,
That's true. Yeah, this is SWAT's bedroom.
and I don't know if you can really tell, but it's quite a small room. And I didn't do it justice, but the next guy that lived in this room did real well in it.
Yeah, he made it very hot. Oh, and the Holmes was so bad.
Oh,
He had
no.
such a big bed, and it was just like bed and desk, and you just like walk in and just like climb in the bed.
Yeah.
Hey, that Alex, you did great.
Which it was for a summer, it's pretty temporary. But you'd be like, "Oh, I'm gonna go hang out in Al's room." You just open the door, and be like, "All right, bedtime." Which, I mean, yeah, it worked. I would still say that we have a house that fits 6.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Especially if you have some basement dwellers.
That's right. Because we can kind of just finagle anywhere between the laundry machines. Anywho. So there's that part of it, the sort of defensive,
Yeah.
arming yourself, protecting yourself, and I think there's more threads there. But what other parts or components are there that create this whole
The, like,
discourse around try hard?
All right,
Like,
I'm gonna bring this one up, and it's gonna be kind of repeating what I thought
That's
the
fine.
issue was the first time.
Sure.
And you hear this. All right, so I heard it for like the first time. I think they kind of made it popular, but Barstool Sports, you hear them say "hardo" all the time, like a video, something like, "Look at this hardo." It's like people get caught putting effort into something, just ripped on the internet.
embarrassing.
And so obviously all the people that look up to and idolize this company are going to be like, "Oh, I hope I never get caught putting
Yeah.
effort into something online and have my friends like, oh, what a hardo," It's like, so what is there left for you to do? Like, I imagine people that just spend like a lot of time just sitting at home, like scrolling TikTok, kind of not doing much. That's a safe bet because no one's going to call you a hardo if you're just like chilling.
you're just, yeah.
Well, that reminds me, is like doing things is embarrassing in general. Like if you are trying to do like music, like playing music is embarrassing. Playing music in front of people is embarrassing. Or like acting. Acting is embarrassing. Playing a sport at like a certain level is embarrassing. Like that sort of like when you put effort into something, it's categorized as like putting yourself into this thing.
Totally.
And that sort of is a little bit of like a nakedness.
And
and-
some of it too is just thinking whether you should be able to do it, like a sort of imposter thing where it's like,
Yeah.
this isn't
Who-
my thing.
yeah.
Yeah, like, or just I on like, if I scroll on Instagram or something, and I get eventually to, if I get through like my people I follow, I just for some reason have a lot of like music after that. And if you have so much access to so many good musicians that just are like years, decades ahead of you,
Mhm.
like that could be kind of tough to not try to put your identity into what you're trying to do, because then you would
Yeah.
like feel really bad.
Yeah, but I think we should stick on this embarrassing thing because I think you're right in general. Doing things can be an embarrassing thing insofar as
can
you're exposing yourself, you're putting yourself out there, the sort of basic
be. Mhm.
features of doing things in front of people or with people. But I think the whole comparison thing of, oh, there's so many good musicians or good athletes, that isn't necessarily something that's always on your mind. For example, if you're a 13 or 14-year-old that, even for example, you get picked to read. This is actually a really good example, being picked to read in front of the class when you're like 8 or 9 or 10.
Yeah.
And then there's some kids that were like super excited, like, I get to read, I get to show off my reading skills, whatever. I get to try hard. But then a lot of kids are just, like reading it through their hands, maybe like almost intentionally mispronouncing words so that it doesn't sound like they knew all the words.
You read books.
Yeah, right. And some of it is the whole cool guy thing, whatever, but some of it is just,
Yeah.
I don't know, this whole thing about embarrassing. I think we need to dig into this term embarrassing a bit, because when you're embarrassed about doing something, let's say like at the pep rally, sometimes we would host the high school pep rallies, or whatever, or do
Yeah.
goofy things like that. That's a more sort of benign, innocent kind of, there's no stakes there than, oh, like maybe your pants fall down, like something sort of absurd like that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, in a vacuum, you're just doing a fun thing in front of your classmates.
Right.
But sometimes, and maybe often, people can feel that they will be embarrassed or that it's an embarrassing thing. But what does that mean? What's the embarrassing thing? What is the feeling that you're feeling when you're talking about being embarrassed? Because I don't think it's properly embarrassment that you're feeling. Because also, the thing is, one thing implied with an embarrassment is that, oh, people will feel a certain way about you because you did the
Yeah.
thing. But often those things that you're embarrassed about are things that people would either be neutral towards, like, oh, that thing happened, or they would admire you for it or want to be doing that with you. Like a really stupid, simple example is like dancing, like a flash
Yeah.
mob. Like, oh, at first it might be embarrassing, but once you get more and more people involved, because people like to dance, people like to have fun,
Contrary to popular belief,
people like to do fun things.
people like to do fun
But
things.
and there are barriers that limit us from collectively agreeing to do those things, but it's not embarrassment, but we always label it as embarrassment.
Right.
But it's not embarrassment, because embarrassment implies that you should feel shame about the thing. Like
Right.
if you do a misdeed, or you say the wrong words to a lyric on stage, something like that, where you could feel bad about it in a certain way because you didn't meet the bar. But just doing something that is unusual or stretching the limits isn't embarrassing, because you shouldn't necessarily, or I shouldn't say shouldn't, but you wouldn't necessarily feel shame because of that, because there's nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah.
And some of that might be, misprescribing what shame is, but some of this I think is mischaracterizing what embarrassing is. You know what I'm saying here?
I think so. Do you have anything right away?
I was just gonna say, I want to not be rude. I'm gonna look up a quote that I have in mind.
Please.
And I don't want
Yeah,
to
go
quote
for
the
it.
wrong
Please,
person.
no.
I'll tell
That's
a story.
good.
I'm not an authority on like what embarrassment is, because I think like for embarrassment, it's one of those things where it's like each person has their perspective of embarrassment, and like it's kind of
For
like
sure.
a cocktail of like shame and like fear,
Right.
anxiety, just kind of like an emotional cocktail of various different ingredients.
Sure.
But what I found in my life is like leaning into embarrassment has been the thing that has relieved me from that
Yeah.
cocktail, that anxiety, stress, and
Yeah.
fear. So one of my favorite stories to tell at the camp was one time I was in 6th grade and I was on a mission trip. We were in Duluth, Minnesota,
Uh-huh.
and we were staying the night in a church. And recently I had sprained my hip. Sorry.
Whoa.
And
how'd you do
so I
that?
was in crutches, just running. It just popped out of its
Oh,
socket
boy.
and sprained a bunch of muscles in there. So I was on crutches, and I like got up, crutched to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and there were some boys. They were like cool boys from another church, and they were hanging out in the bathroom. They were gonna like pull an all nighter and do like the cool boy thing.
Yeah.
And I like got up to the urinal, and I had to pee really bad, and I pulled down my pants, and it stuck to itself and curved down. My penis stuck to my scrot, okay, and curved down, and I peed on myself. So I crutched my way all the way to the bathroom, got to the urinal safe and sound, pulled my pants down to pee, and peed onto my body. I didn't even like pee my pants. I just peed on myself.
And you didn't know this was happening until it started happening?
I had to pee so bad that it was all like rushing out. I was trying to fix it. I got it well, and like, but by that time, I had peed all over myself, and I was in these blue sleep pants.
Shout out to wet denim.
Wet denim pants.
Wet denim
I was
pants.
in wet denim.
Or wet pants denim.
Wet pant
Yeah,
denim. Wet
I think-
denim.
Wet denim pants.
Wet denim.
I don't know.
Denim
Well,
wet.
shout out to most likely Nathan Fielder's newest business venture. Look it up. Wet denim pants. Anyway, sidebar. Continue.
Yeah. So I had these blue sleep pants on, and I like I was sitting there with my crutches at the urinal, and they're standing right behind me talking, and I was like, can I like shuffle out? Like, do I just like ignore them? Like, they're at the sinks where I want to wash my hands, and I just like turned around, was like, well, guys, I just pissed on myself, and they're like, what? I was like, I just peed on myself. They're like, oh my god, legit, you just did. And there's like blue liquid from the pants going down my like foot, and they're like, did you piss Gatorade? And I was like, yeah, I guess I just drank so much. And they're like, gosh, well, like, do you need any help? Like, what can we do? And I was like, I'm just gonna go change. I'll like come back and talk to you guys in a bit. And I like crutched all the way back, changed, grabbed a bag, and then like crutched back in there, and then hung out with them for the rest of the night.
There you go.
And then I was Gatorade boy, but it was like an endearing, like they thought I was a badass. They were like, there's no way you would just like, why would you piss yourself and then turn around and just like tell us, man? And I told that story during in one of my sociology classes.
Yeah.
And the professor was like, oh man, usually that's not how people's stories go, but you did what you're like supposed to do.
Right.
Like lean into the embarrassment
Yeah.
and like get through to where you see that like people are not as malicious towards people as
Yeah.
you expect all
Yeah.
the time.
And then that I think illustrates two things. Both that point that oftentimes we assume the worst in people, but also that when you do the thing that you wish you could do, that often disarms other people because
Right.
again, there's like an admiration there that because we all are feeling these feelings of like feeling anxious or embarrassed
Yeah.
or anxiety of embarrassment, such that if you are able to successfully reclaim it in a way or lean into it, people like that because that's a crutch for them too. It's like
Yeah, you can do that.
yeah, and it's like, oh, this is nice. We don't have to behave like freaking like I don't know, just
Sweet gym class.
sweet
boys.
gym class boys. We don't have to be sweet gym class boys. We can actually be human beings
Yeah.
that understand life is sometimes embarrassing.
Yeah.
And because of that, we can, I don't know, not just be here for each other, but also just not be sweet gym class boys. I don't know.
Did you get that quote? Did you want to share it?
Yeah, I think it kind of went back before we went back on like the embarrassment train, and this might
Yeah.
be like kind of taking it to a different place. But the quote that I was thinking of whenever I was saying whatever I was saying was Aristotle, which is what I was thinking. But it just and it's one of those that's like you find it on like pictures with like a mountain in the background.
Oh, yeah. I
for
love
whatever
those.
reason. And it's just the only way to avoid criticism is to do nothing, say nothing, and be nothing.
Yeah.
And so it goes just like my frustration with the try hard thing. It's like, yeah, if you just like chill out and like don't do much and don't like try, then you aren't gonna be under that like scrutiny or like run the risk of like putting your neck out. Which is so the same energy of like the man in the arena speech.
Oh
Which
yeah.
people absolutely love because I think there's like people have a lot of anxiety about like the unseen they of like criticism,
Yeah.
and they want to like, can I just do my thing and just everyone else can like not be on my ass about it and
Right.
Yeah.
just kind of let it like bloom the way that it will.
Yeah. Also, that's perfect because the speech is very inspiring, but I think even when people get inspired by that sort of man in the arena thing, the thing that perhaps maybe stops them is the idea of like an arena. That the only means of being yourself or getting into something or doing your thing is to be an arena, which is to be watched.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of, if we're doing like a pendulum here, the idea is either, I sit on the sidelines, I'm avoiding criticism, but I'm doing nothing, or I'm in the arena, I'm exposing myself, and maybe I'll get criticized, but at least I'm a man in the arena. When it's like,
Right.
I mean, you can also just do the thing. And I mean, in SWAT's case, he wasn't necessarily in the arena. He just pissed himself. And he's like, hey guys,
He
this
didn't piss
goofy.
himself, he pissed on
He
him.
pissed.
I didn't piss myself.
He pissed on himself. He's like, hey guys, this goofy thing happened.
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily like a spectator setting. It was just they were there.
Mm-hmm.
You were also there in this shared space
Yeah.
called life. It happened. You're Gatorade boy now. You may not be marred with the blood and sweat of the arena. Maybe I guess you have a nickname, Gatorade boy, but
Yeah.
and it's okay. You got through it. You did something a little out of the ordinary, not intentionally. That you weren't like on stage and your pants didn't fall down or something. But
Yeah.
this thing happened. You didn't have to pretend you were doing something valiant. You just
Right.
accepted that this thing happened.
Mm-hmm.
And they were there for it. They were like, all right. I mean, they offered to help you.
Yeah.
They weren't laughing at you.
I mean, we all laughed together.
Laughing, yeah.
at me.
You were laughing together at you,
Yeah.
and it wasn't self-deprecating. It was more just like
it
this was a funny
th-
thing.
This is crazy. How,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a
I also think sometimes like how unfair it is to assume, like, okay, I could assume that those three boys would think
yeah.
whatever about
Yeah.
me. How unfair is it to them
Mhm.
that I'm assuming that they'll like,
Prescribe an attitude to
Yeah.
them before they even
or like, yeah, in an arena that you assume that you know what 10,000 people are gonna
Yeah.
react to your thing,
Who are you
and
to?
that they're all gonna react the same thing.
Yeah.
Or that any two people could ever think the same exact thing about something that happened.
Which is almost like spectatorial of you to do that. To sort of like
Right.
say this is how they will behave.
Yeah.
And it-
Me watching them.
Yeah.
You
the
know.
arena is actually bleachers.
It's a
and
panopticon.
This is the-
We're all watching each other.
well, the
Shout out
arena
to
is-
Foucault.
Shout out.
So, all right, I picture, this is going to be like assuming that, like just the hypothetical, people have no depth and everyone only thinks one way, right? But let's say we got like this sort of like culture of people like this person's a hardo, like don't try hard,
Yeah.
people like see that
Yeah.
and then lay into it, propagate that feeling.
Yeah.
But then if you have the other side where people, the hardos, ones that are like putting effort and like kind of getting seen doing that, even if they're like getting embarrassed by people like flaming them for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that group could so easily like flip it over and be like, no, you guys are the assholes.
Right.
And like
Yeah.
probably the minority that for
Right.
some reason is
Yeah.
just like the hip like group that is
Yeah.
putting out the media saying it's uncool.
Yeah.
Just like flip the script and be like, it's uncool to say that being cool is like more important than just doing what you
Right.
want to do.
Well, it's also because everyone is trying to do something. That's the kicker. There's no one actively not anti-trying because
Right.
the people that are trying to, distance themselves from, whatever being a hardo or distancing themselves from actively investing in something are trying. They're doing something.
They're putting a lot of effort into being the type of person that's like too
Yes.
cool,
Yeah.
So,
trying hard.
Yeah.
our perceptions might lead us to believe there's this certain group of people that have somehow pushed themselves to the fringes or are somehow, even if we don't believe they're superior, they believe themselves to be superior, like that, whatever. But the fact of the matter is that there is no in or out group, because everyone is in the group
Right.
of human beings that are all just trying their best.
Mm-hmm.
And, I suppose it's easy for us to just riff off like, oh man, like this kind of attitude and these people suck. But if we think about it further, those people are also doing that for a reason, which is to say
Yeah.
that, like, this is going back to the defensive thing, but like, even the people we think of that, like, anecdotally, that were like the worst propagators of this, or the most active, even if we're thinking like Barstool as an entity, those are also human beings that are dealing with similar shades of anxieties or shades of insecurities. And this is their way of displaying it.
Yeah, and so then like the question is like, how do you support someone? Because like it's easy to support someone who's trying to do something and failed, and
Right.
Be labeled
Yes.
as a tryhard and doing something.
Yes.
embarrassing. But it's hard to support someone who's sitting back and criticizing as a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
I've heard like a lot of like if it's like a performance thing or like a music thing where someone's like, oh, they're not like a talented guitarist or whatever. And it's like, well, grab a guitar and play it and let's see, like, are you going to like say that someone's not a talented guitarist but don't know anything about the guitar? Or like why is that an important thing for you that they're seemingly not a talented
Right.
guitarist?
Yeah.
How do you support that person in like shedding that layer of anxiety about,
Yeah.
because that is a self-fueled, I need to either consume people who are at a certain level of guitar, like, oh, I'm not going to listen to this band because their guitar game isn't at the level of my being. I'm kind of losing the thought a little bit, but the general idea of how do you encourage someone to shed that anxiety when they are in that look at this hardo mode?
How do you free someone from something that you see as chains and they see as just
Security.
Yeah.
They see it as like safety.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially if you and your friends see that thing of safety as also hurting other people or
Right.
inhibiting other people from also feeling secure in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
In the flip side, actually.
Yeah, because if I see someone fail and they're embarrassed and they stop, that's like the worst thing to me.
Right.
If I see someone fail and they're embarrassed and they're like, yeah, I was dumb, but I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
That's all I like. Yeah.
Easy thing to cheer
Rock on,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
But it's hard to say rock on to someone who is putting up a front.
Yeah. And I feel like there's like so many movie plots that kind of hint at some of this. Like there's like one character that in some way is like distant or limiting themselves or inhibiting themselves. And sometimes it is a sort of too cool thing.
Yeah.
And of course, like there's always like some sort of magical moment that like shows them
Fucking
the beauty of
Santa Claus every time.
a very Christmas movie kind of
Get
vibe
outta
for
here,
sure.
Santa.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't
The most
wanna-
basic one is just like, oh, not believing in Santa. But of course, you can't always give people, especially people you don't know that well, like a magical moment or experience that
Right.
somehow opens their eyes about something.
Yeah.
It's not High School Musical for everyone. They can't all just have
Unfortunately
like the musical to audition for and
Right.
some
Yeah.
just-
Right. Yeah. And then they release their inhibitions and they're just a superstar.
What's that song? Release your
Yeah.
inhibitions.
Maybe
Feel the rain on your
so. Maybe
lips.
we need the state to reclaim or claim every city block, install music
Unwritten.
speakers, and
Unwritten.
play
written
unwritten.
by,
Natasha
not Nelly Furtado,
Benningham.
but like probably Nelly
Natasha
Furtado.
Benningham?
Bedingfield.
Benningfield. Sorry.
We might be skewing the name.
Benningfield or Ham.
It-
Great song.
But yeah, so we need to
Natasha,
install
what's-
speakers on every block and play that song.
What's Black Widow's full person name? Isn't it?
Gwen
Natasha?
Stefani.
Gwen Stacy.
Gwen Stacy. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Natasha Furtado.
Sweet. Nelly Furtado?
Nelly.
For-
We're just
Just Nelly.
saying.
We know our culture.
Unwritten. The song is definitely Kelly Clarkson.
Oh my God.
I love Katy Perry.
We can do it. Oh God, we can do it. Holy.
figure out the name of this artist? Because I don't think we can.
No, we can do this.
Yeah, we can like touch each other.
we can.
Yep.
This
Here-
is
oh,
the-
see you at Mike's. This is the
Yeah,
logo for Beat
That's
Six.
the logo. It's the
Yeah.
Yeah.
the
Mm.
dap, the
Mm.
slide, and the
Mm.
Yeah.
I wonder if they heard the knuckles. Oh, let's. Mm. Boom. You hear that, folks? You
I
hear that?
heard that.
I heard it. Anywho, yeah.
Sorry, I derailed that
So-
a little bit.
Oftentimes there's not that magical moment, that sort of experience that you can remove the cloak. Oh, look, friend, life is worth putting your whole self into.
Well, I think like in my life, I've had those moments with people through my like vulnerability, like how I was
Yeah.
talking in an
Yeah.
earlier episode about how
Yeah.
I would try to be so open and vulnerable.
Yeah.
That moment, pissing on myself, was one of those moments where like
Yeah.
I saw how the power of my vulnerability gave people space to
Yeah.
leave that.
Yeah. I mean, that is the whole flash mob thing.
Right.
If you see other people feeling so free and good and just entirely, I don't know, liberated from these things, like they just, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, like
It's
it,
infectious.
and also like at first it might seem very alien
Mm-hmm.
to the point of it being very
Oh my God,
almost
the amount of
disjointed.
campers that I've had as a counselor where they're just like, you're weird.
Yes.
And I'm like,
yeah.
hell yeah,
Yeah.
brother.
Yeah.
Welcome to Weird Town.
Yeah, I'm
You're a
sure.
Weird counselor.
And I'm sure like at the end of the
They don't
trip,
want to go home.
they're in it.
Yeah.
They're in it with you.
So many times.
So I guess that is a very baseline good thing to practice, which is
Yeah.
just being secure in yourself enough that not only are you not worried about these things yourself,
Right.
you're just so to the point that perhaps others are feeling kind of more free to explore themselves a bit around you too.
Right. And I've forgotten that kind of as I've grown older, and especially because I've been living alone more.
Great to see you all together in person. Yes, it is very well to be together.
Hello to you. Being
Do you know
like,
who this
living
is?
alone,
Do you know?
maybe. I couldn't read the name because it's too far. My eyes, I guess, aren't that good.
Nike Shane? Is that Shane?
Well, they were hanging out. I don't know. But they were hanging out. One of them living at the centers. Hello.
Glad to see you.
Yeah, we got a couple of I think followers from that. We might know them in person, but I don't know.
Cool. Well, happy you're here. Anywho, continue. I'm sorry.
But I've lived alone for the past like couple of years, and I haven't had
yeah,
much human
right.
interaction. Well, I guess it's COVID. It's not weird for people to be alone a lot.
Right. Yeah.
But even not COVID, I would have been alone a lot. Which is fortunate that it's during that time.
Yeah.
In some ways. But the amount that I've stepped away from the idea that my vulnerableness can be liberating and give space to other people.
Yeah.
I can't believe that's something that I forgot, because
Yeah.
when I was pissing on myself, that was something that I knew. I was like, my vulnerability here will be something that will help these people feel safer to like interact with me.
Yeah.
Like how to like imagine being some dude and a kid turns around and they piss themselves. How do you react? And then they don't initiate anything. So I was like, I have to initiate something, and that gives them space to be with me.
Yeah.
Or I can shut down and they don't have any space.
That's true.
Hell yeah, brother.
I think something that might lead into this, that I don't know if it's always the way it's been with the English language, or if it's just like kind of right now it's like going more towards that, but the way that we soften our language just in
Oh, yeah.
talking, like
Hmm.
words like kinda,
Just.
probably,
Yeah.
just, like this is low key kinda not the best, you know.
Yeah.
I can almost guarantee
Yeah.
just like you hear that so much. It's really normal, so it doesn't really ping your radar, but I've been trying to look for that. Just like the amount of matter-of-fact statements that people make.
You have to
in
qualify
speaking.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like in writing, it's more common, but in
Sure.
speaking, it just doesn't happen.
The amount of college papers that I've written where the amount of hoops that someone has gone through to say that this is not necessarily my opinion. I don't really know yet, but I have to say it for this paper. Oh, it's disgusting.
And one thing that really like highlighted that for me is I started training with my students, and they're both from like Eastern Asian countries.
Mm.
And
And
they
it-
felt very matter of fact, I'm sure.
Yeah, and it could be the fact that they're still learning English. They don't really have that like colloquial like bullshit.
Right.
The
that
things we
do.
develop
Or
culturally.
it I think more likely it's just their language. Like they just kind of get in, get out, say what they're gonna say. Like
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be. They don't text with like haha and lol just so they see them. Like
Yeah.
some people I haven't read a text that doesn't have haha.
Yep.
It's like just like what are you trying to say? You know? Like
Yeah,
I'm likable.
this was definitely something because I took linguistics at school at like the intro class, but that's something that definitely came up. And of course, like other languages have their colloquial cues, they're things that not necessarily soften, but sort of just drive dialogue in a way that is
Right.
sort of commonly understood.
Mhm.
But I think one thing that was brought up is that English is particularly notable for yes.
we just have to like add so much lubrication to
Yeah.
the way that we talk.
Yeah, yeah, and
I'm gonna send you this missile, but I'm gonna surround it in teddy bears and blankets and pillows.
yeah. But I mean, the thing is, half the time it isn't even a missile, but it feels that way because people are.
Yeah, you have to do so
Also-
much work to figure out.
Yeah, but people are also, I feel like, not that frank.
Yeah.
Because I think we conflate frankness with a sort of aggression,
Rudeness, yeah.
which, you know, probably isn't good because I think one thing that good communication, excuse me, has besides pronunciation,
Good
it also
about communication.
besides good pronunciation, it also has just a level of frankness, a level of straight onness where you understand what someone wants to tell you. Or you don't feel as if it's being cloaked in something or shrouded.
Yeah.
That you know what someone's trying to tell you.
Right.
And I wonder why in English and in America, I guess, that's been sort of
Yeah.
both the softening of language generally, but also perhaps the less frank. And of course, that's also regional too, because I know sometimes people feel that people in the Midwest are kind of more frank about things in certain ways, and also some people on the coast are actually more frank about things because
Yeah.
they're delivered differently. Because I think the Midwestern way has almost a sort of passive aggressiveness and a sort of cloaked in niceties way of delivering things.
Yeah.
But it's still kind of jarring to certain people. Whereas the jarring things for people like in like the East, for example, is just like it's so right on, like, hey, like I'm walking here, you know, like. So I think that's always been funny to me because I've being here and I like when I'm talking to adults or something about going to school in New York, they're like, oh, the rude people out east or whatever whatever random
Are people
stupid
rude? Are
yeah
people mean
yeah.
to you all the time?
Not like us nice North Dakotans.
Right.
Um
I heard that everyone's mean as hell. in
yeah,
there.
right. And then sometimes people like over there will mention how, oh, aren't people there super passive aggressive? And it's like, well, you're right. It's just cloaked in different ways. But in general, beyond the regional differences, there's two buckets here of both just a lack of frankness and then a softening or qualifying of language generally, which of course, as you said, seen through text, haha, lol,
Yeah.
versus saying going to the grocery store, haha, well, because you don't want to put a period there because a period is too aggressive for some reason.
Yeah.
You can't just say going to the grocery store.
Yeah, Russ would be like, "What? Going to the
Why are
grocery
you-
store? Why are you mad at me?
You mad at me? What did I do?
What did I
Which is
forget?"
true. If someone just sends me sentences, I will feel a little insecure about things, which is funny because I've gotten more conscious about not qualifying my texts. So sometimes I think, oh gosh, I'm sending this text without qualifiers.
Oh my
They're going to feel
gosh.
uncomfortable because I know they probably will be. So it's been a tough
Because
balancing act
everyone
because everyone
does,
uses
but
qualifiers.
They don't need to.
It's a trap.
So I definitely do not use haha and lol, excuse me, as much really anymore unless I'm actually ha-haing or loling. I still use faces a lot though. I mean, I like to use faces generally, so I don't know if I'm like using it as a replacement or if I just like using like emoticons.
Yeah.
Emoticons greater than emojis, by the way, in my
Yes.
opinion.
Yeah. for
It-
sure.
Although there are a few emojis that are fantastic, like the long neck dinosaur.
Damn.
Yeah. Anywho,
So
the two buckets.
I had some sort of way of tying like the try hard argument with the softening of language, but
And then I kept droning on.
it has since
What is it
I
like?
forgot.
It's like
So-
the defensive thing, right? It's the if I can get it so that I say something that I think is important to say, you got it? Go.
Yeah, I got
go,
it. Okay,
baby.
all
Go,
right.
go, 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 go.
So it's like you're working on something cool. I find
Yeah.
myself doing this all the time.
Yeah, because you're always doing
You're always
cool
working-
shit.
yeah.
That wasn't meant to be
Trade at
this.
Trevor. Trade underscore Trevor.
That wasn't meant to be
Follow
a
him on
sweet
Instagram.
beast thing.
You are
So-
a sweet beast.
You are.
Anyone that's like working really hard for something, you
Yeah.
know, like people don't see the like hours you spend doing it, like the
Mhm.
tediousness, the
Mhm.
frustration. But then when you do the thing and people like give you props or commend you for it, you always are like dismissive. Like, yeah, it's just something I've been wanting to do for a
Yeah.
little bit. I just like threw it together. You know, I'm not like, yeah, dude, I sat in my room for 5 hours today, like just drinking
Mhm.
coffee, just like
Mhm.
writing or
Yeah.
like painting, whatever you're
Mhm.
doing. Like, you don't say that. You're just like, oh yeah, thanks. It's just this little like thing I was doing. It's I just like started. What's the difference between being humble and like taking this and just like softening it, because you don't want to
Yeah.
be seen as like, yeah, dude, I go hard as fuck.
Yeah, what was
Yeah.
that? Humble brag?
Humble brag. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're
Yeah,
like
that's-
kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I only whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that thing is so cool. It must have taken so much effort. It's like, nah, I didn't really work
So,
that hard.
If you have like you can do things and not be in the arena, like not be seen.
Yeah.
But then if you do that and you like put it up on the wall, figuratively or literally, and then it ends up being seen,
Yeah.
you still might not want to
Yeah.
be like,
Yeah.
I wanted to do this. I just did it
Yeah.
on my own time. You
Yeah.
know, I don't want to be seen as a hardo, but I want to like create and do cool
I
stuff.
don't want people to see my heart on.
Yeah. And then people come out like see it and you're like, oh no, I'm not a tryhard or anything.
Right.
But see, so there's also a few different tributaries to this too, because one other thing is that I think, well, one broader thing is that I think we are not great at necessarily celebrating small to medium wins and even large wins in appropriate magnitudes, because we
Yeah.
just don't know. I think one thing there is that people are sometimes afraid of jinxing themselves or switching their
You're
luck a
not
bit.
allowed to be happy.
You can't be happy for too long, because someday life is going to hit you in the face and swing it around. It's like, well, yes, life goes in ups and downs, but just because you are in an up doesn't mean that precipitates a down.
Right.
That's one thing about that. Another thing is that I think if you accept a compliment as such and say, yes, thank you, I deserve this compliment because of this specific thing that I created or did,
Mm-hmm.
I think one thing that maybe internally for some people is that because you're accepting such a nice compliment for something, that means that's like one of your upper echelons of things you can do. Like, you can't do better because you're accepting a compliment of that magnitude, and you're accepting the premise that, wow, this was such an impressive thing.
Right.
Therefore, but if you soften it, you say, oh, it was all in day's work, whatever.
Yeah.
That means you in your own mind, you don't close the possibility that you could do more because you didn't actually try this hard on this thing. So you can do even better. When it's like, this is a whole internal thing. Like, you can just say, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad you appreciate the work or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that way, that still is like, not like softened, but you're not, I guess, feeding into that little internal strife of, oh man, like, is that the best I can do? Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of
Also,
different
there's the,
reasons that makes it
if I
hard.
accept the compliment, then I'm not being humble. If I accept that, oh, that
And there's
was
also
really
just the basic
amazing.
thing that you don't want to seem braggadocious or whatever. Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, that was amazing. And you're like,
Right,
oh,
yeah.
Yeah, right. You're gonna accept that graciously, but
Right.
there's different. You're not gonna be like, "Oh, it turned out good." Shut up, baby. I know it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So it's like there clearly is a way you can just accept a compliment.
Right.
Without-
And like we were giving Trav some praise right here in this about being a sweet beast, and he was like, whatever. And then we were like, but you are a sweet beast.
See that, folks?
And he
That's
accepted
pretty
it
bad.
generally. He still didn't like deny it very much. He was like, I know that you guys think I'm a sweet beast. Like, I'll accept.
What? No, don't tell me anymore.
No, I think Trev did a pretty
No,
good job.
that was
of
a solid
describing
job.
What we did was
Yeah.
like there was a little bit of
I'm
denial
glad
right
you
away.
thought that I did a good job. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, see that, folks?
Yeah.
And that's all the time we have.
But Trev was like, I don't want to be like a sweet beast or anything, and we're like, but you are a sweet beast, and he like went forward with it. There was no denial of it. There wasn't like a sick acceptance of it. It was like he wasn't like, you know what? Yeah. But it was just like whatever. Like I don't need to acknowledge what these two people think about what I do. It like if I base off of like what I'm doing, off of what these two guys sitting here are. Like if we think you're a sweet beast or not, it doesn't necessarily matter. And so you moved on because like, why even acknowledge it at that point? Does that make sense? I mean, I'm obviously putting words in your mouth, but like at a certain point, it's the thank you is like, I validate what you're saying, but I'm not going to invest myself in it. So like someone's like, "Oh, that means so much to me." You can say, "Thank you," yeah, and
You don't have to
validate
let
what
it
he's
impact
saying,
your behavior.
but you don't have
Yeah.
to invest like, yes, okay, this means so much to this
Yeah.
person.
You can
Yeah.
be like water with compliments the same way you can with like insults and
Yeah.
jabs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we're like, Trev, you're a sweet beast, and it's like we're gonna continue on.
Yeah.
Because like, why dwell on if Trev's a sweet beast or not? Because like, okay, we're your good friends. Your opinions don't count. You know?
You're not they.
You're not they.
But also water in the sense that like, even if you don't like embrace the compliment, to like kind of at least bounce the energy off them,
Yeah.
because again, something that we talk about all the time in certain ways is that like
Yeah.
we don't exist in vacuums. We sort of create what we see and see what
Mhm.
we create. So like, if you want to create that culture also of like people just generally being there for each other,
Right.
to have a good atmosphere about that though, like
Yeah.
like a complimentary atmosphere, a supportive atmosphere, that even if you're not saying thanks dude, you're right, I'm the best, still matching that energy in whatever
Right.
way that feels appropriate for you.
And like, fortunately, like we want Trev to feel comfortable and happy, regardless if we think he's a sweet beast or not. It just so happens that we think he's a sweet beast.
Yes. Yeah. So
That's
it
what-
aligns well, and he knows that, which is good because he
Right.
he behaves like water in the sense that it bounces off. You
Yeah.
know? So
I kind of want to go back to the language thing because I do enjoy frank language.
yeah.
And
So
I find
let's-
myself, especially like talking with my mother, of like, there are specific things where I'm very, very frank with my mother.
Mhm.
But because of our relationship, because of our vulnerability and our intimacy as mother-child relationship, I do speak in sort of like a contrarian, frank way. And I find that has boiled over into a lot of areas of my life where, I'll say things and I don't agree with them necessarily. Where it's like, if I know now, if someone misconstrues an opinion that I put out, that's just like an opportunity to refine that thing more. And if I speak frankly about it,
Mhm.
then I can work through it to get better to the pith or the essence or the experience of that thing. But if I spend my time, kind of like curating it and saying like, well, I kind of think this, but it's not really like that, then I spend my whole time just like never getting to a place. But if I can say, this thing is dumb, and someone's like, well, it's not all dumb. It's like, I agree with you. It's not all dumb, but it's dumb. And then I could like go on to the next thing where I will connect to that experience
With
that
them.
I'm trying to get to with them in a dialogue, instead of being like, well, I think like some parts of this thing are dumb. And it's like, yeah, some parts of this thing are dumb. We've gone nowhere. Nobody has experienced or come into contact with that sort of thing that is actually dumb. There's just maybe a foggy understanding.
Yeah.
And so like frankness, I think that might be like a real fun personal endeavor to go on, to just be more frank, or as frank as you possibly can. In a similar vein, that might be something that I'll try, in a similar vein of how I tried to be as vulnerable as I possibly could in like middle school through high school. Which, I mean, that is still going. But the frankness might be the next thing.
Yeah, be good. Or just like when you're talking, you can say your statements in as few words as possible without
Right.
actually talking less. So you're like, if you have this many words, but everything you say is in as few words as possible, in the same amount of words you would have said way, way more.
Say more with less.
Yeah.
Say less. Sorry.
No, that was it.
Oh, okay.
He hit his word count.
No, I said what I needed to say.
Oh man. Well, I mean, that's kind of the idea with like college papers, where you have a word limit.
Yeah.
It's like, you be concise about what you're speaking about. Like, this is a purposefully 2 pages, and I know you want to talk on. It would be easier if you had 4 pages.
But would it be easier with 4 pages?
Well, to some people.
But no, for the reader.
For the reader, right. Thank
Right,
you.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I think qualifying is a good way to put it. People saying just like, or prefacing things like it's all good, but
But-
even though you like can pick up from like body language in a lot of those cases, like it's not all good. It's bugging you. Like say
Yeah.
it is, you know.
Yeah.
I always love to butt people. I did that to you not too long ago where you were saying something. I kept going, but. And you're like, it's not but yet. Like, just wait.
But the butt is coming.
But the but is coming. And so
I
you
do
said
love
the
that because
next
you
thing-
always know.
Yeah.
Like the second someone starts a sentence, even in a complete vacuum, no
Yeah.
context, like
You know
new
the butt's
sentence,
coming.
you always
There's
know.
always a booty in my face.
And it's always not always there, but you know when it's going to be.
Squawk goes into that conversation just looking at the butt. It's like, where's that butt at?
Come on. Where's that butt? I know it's coming.
I think I don't want to talk for like everybody here, so I'll just say I
No, don't worry.
love
Talk for me, baby.
movie characters
Mhm.
where they don't like use that bullshit like softened language. You know, they just like kind of go in, like say what they're gonna say. Like I always look at those characters the most. Like,
English,
oh, man,
motherfucker. Do you speak it?
like that's the cool guy to be it. Or ones that just don't talk like in response to everything that they're said. They're
Right.
like,
Yeah.
you know, like I think people also just fill silence super readily with just bullshit words.
Oh, yeah.
I think we
Oh.
talked about silence before, hadn't we?
We have, yeah.
Mari! Hello, Mari! That's a friend of life. I think there's a balance between frankness and rudeness and can be dependent on your tone. Especially people who have less natural inflection feel the need to compensate with fluffy words or qualifiers.
No, that's a good point. Because, I like to think I'm a fairly competent speaker. Did I interrupt something?
About the movie characters.
My
Yeah,
last
I'm
one.
so sorry.
The last thing I was gonna say to anchor it, I just watched the movie Drive with like Ryan Gosling
Oh,
and
yeah.
Oscar Isaac and
Yeah.
the chick from Promising Young Woman, and
I don't.
I forget her name.
That chick. Sorry, chick.
Then Ryan Gosling's character is like things would kind of be happening around him where like any normal person would be like, oh yeah, no doubt, like I totally agree for sure, also this and that, but he would just like they would like say it, he knew that they didn't really like need an answer, he would just kind of like look at him and just kind of like just like didn't say much, and like they kind of just like understood what each other were like thinking in that moment of silence, or like the
Mhm.
choice to not say anything was like its own response. It's kind of like an abstract way to describe it, but I was like, why can't people just do that more? Like if no words really need to be shared, you can just kind of like
Right.
let those last words just kind of hang in the air. Everyone like hears them instead of like, and it's different between like riffing with the boys, you know, and
Yeah.
they're trying to get those punches in, but like
Yeah.
any conversation, you just always got to have like that air be like alive with some kind of
Yeah.
words.
Yeah.
All right, that's the end of my thing. To Mari's point, I was gonna bring this up before too. It's like, I think maybe we've talked about this too, is people like to assume just a level of like malice with other people and
Yeah.
assume their own like good intentions, or like
Mhm.
their in group is like good and like the out group is evil.
Yeah.
Things like that. So then frankness could be seen as rude if you're just gonna assume the poor intentions of everyone around
Mhm.
you.
Right.
Yeah.
But if we can like just assume that everyone has generally good intentions, someone can come up to you, speak in like their conversational tone, be very frank, and you wouldn't be like, "All right, dick," because they didn't say like, "Hey, I just think that maybe," you know, like they just say their words, and you're like, "Okay, I get what you're saying,"
Yeah.
and not feel, like they're being rude.
Yeah.
But I get that that's kind of not where we're at. Like it can seem rude for
Right.
sure if you're not like using like a
Yeah,
light
I mean,
tone.
That's just like a totally general good advice for people. I think it's like open your mind and heart to people.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you'll notice that what you thought of other people's intentions, whether good or bad, either side,
Was
are
just
generally wrong.
Yeah.
What you think someone intended, even if they did intend the same thing, you don't know why they intended that thing. And I think we've talked about it before, but intentions never really correlate with what happens.
Yeah.
Intentions never really correlate with results. So like if intentions in the first place are not very trustworthy,
Then your
Then your-
perceptions and their
yeah.
intentions that you had
No
no like
idea.
discourse about beforehand. it's gonna be even farther from results.
Right. And so, gosh, there's a time where someone at camp was talking to me, where they're like, but they wanted to, like, hurt me or whatever. I was like, you don't know shit. You don't know shit, motherfucker.
Is that what you said to the kid?
It wasn't a kid, it was a staff member. And,
Is that what you said to the staff member?
yeah.
A kid
We-
said that to the staff.
We had a good laugh about it after that realization of like intentions in themselves are like very unstable. And so to invest everything into someone's intention, even if they wanted to hurt you, like it's still like faulty at best.
Yeah.
And you're going to invest your whole life and psyche around that thing. Whack, dude.
Again, too, we were kind of alluding to this earlier, but it is very, I guess this was about like, earlier, the point was knowing what other people in the arena are saying or thinking. But similarly, just having this sort of narcissism of intentions
Mm-hmm.
where you know yourself so well, but you also know that other people are not up to par with you. Like it's very, very
Yeah.
self-centered to and of course I don't want to say this in a pejorative way. Like I'm not saying, hey, you guys suck for thinking this.
Let's get all pejorative about it. What does
Um,
that mean, pejorative?
Kind of like dissing, you know, like
Dissing, right.
like you suck for thinking this.
I think like in group, out group sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm saying like I'm not saying that's bad to think this way. I just think it's very self-centered of us generally. I do think it's very self-centered of us to behave that way.
All the time? Sorry. I'm sorry.
Insert qualifier, insert qualifier, insert qualifier.
You're
And-
wrong because you think this all the time because you didn't qualify beforehand.
Right. Yeah.
That's a fallacy.
Yeah.
I mean,
All right. Mr. Facts and Logic here.
the man in the arena speech does kind of come with, I think it resonates just with the narcissism or like egocentrism in the first place. It's like
Yeah.
clearly there isn't like every person is the center of their own arena.
Yeah.
You know, like that's just not how it works. But
Right.
people, that's the way that they see it, and so that
Gross.
speech works and that analogy works perfect. It's like, oh yeah, I'm definitely the dude in the arena
Yeah.
all the time, and everyone's just watching
Yes.
me, and everyone's
Yes.
their seats are like
Yes.
aligned, facing right where I'm standing.
I did.
And the
They
thing is that
know.
that is antithetical to what you're describing of being like
Absolutely.
more like empathetic and opening to other
Mhm.
people, because you can't both be the protagonist or the arena and also think that you and other people operate similarly. Like you can't sort of be generous towards other people's intentions
Right.
if you think your intentions are greater than theirs and that other people might have more worse intentions than you do.
Yeah.
You can't hold that empathy and also be in the arena. Those are not congruent.
And one thing, like, so I just led a worship service today, and so I was up at the front. I was the guy leading everyone. I was the guy giving the sermon, doing the stuff. But what was most helpful for me in that moment was understanding that I was still a part of the congregation, a part of all those other people speaking. That it wasn't me special doing some special thing, but it was me, nobody, with this group, kind of accidentally in some way facilitating this experience. And in that way, it was no longer all eyes on me, but it was like, there's eyes on me as a part of this thing.
Mm,
It's eyes on me, but the eyes on me is just a part of the whole show going on here, which is us together. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like that was super helpful. Like there was like a moment where I started to tense up a little bit, and then we started singing a song. And I was like, oh yeah, no, we're all singing this song together. Like there's no voice that's better. There's no voice that's louder. There's no voice that's more important. Just because I'm up here doesn't really mean anything. I'm just here, and this is how the relationship happened to pan out. Hell yeah, brother.
I'm just, when we were talking about it, I had this image in my mind of like a big arena and everyone's looking in, but what they're looking at is just like maybe 50 feet in front of them. There's just like a hyperbolic mirror that just goes around, and like the dude in the arena is actually, you're just like sitting like shoulder to shoulder with everyone else.
Yeah.
Maybe at different points people will like stand up, like have something to say, and then you like sit back down, and then this person also is going to stand up at some point,
Yeah,
say something, and you're all just watching each other.
yeah.
You're looking at the interaction of like everyone, you're all in the arena,
Yeah.
because you're looking at, where you're all sitting.
And that's also interesting because if you're the man in the arena and you want to be the best man in the arena, probably the best man in the arena you could be is a hyperbolic mirror. Or like
Just like
in the way of like you're opening that space for people to
you're
see
like the
themselves.
conduit to like,
Yeah.
yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. Sorry that hit a little flat on your guys' eyes.
No,
but, yeah.
I guess it just took me a minute to
Yeah.
turn it around.
I think that might be what I'm getting into with like the vulnerableness thing.
Yeah,
It's like
you're a
when I
lighthouse for
clear,
people.
yeah, you have that mirror to see yourself.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to make it land flat. I was practicing my Ryan Gosling thing where you just kind of like said it, and
Yeah.
Just sit in the air.
I was practicing being frank. Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting thing of like reading body language too. Is like, well, you've probably taken a class that said how much percent of our language is spoken through body language. Do you guys know?
Nonverbal communication
Yeah,
is 60%.
60%. See, I'm so
The
right all the
messages-
time. You've taken a class, you know.
What
Not
what
that-
class was this in?
Aviation.
Was this like an
I think
aviation adjacent
We
thing? Like
took
why did
human factors. It's a sophomore level class, and so yeah, you're getting into like a lot of like communication because the whole point of human factors really is, well, the only reason that the airlines cares if you take it is that you don't become like a captain that doesn't listen to the rest of the flight crew, which has led to a lot of like accidents. But
Yeah.
there's more reasons to take it. But
Yeah. So the like body language thing, I said my piece, and I looked at two vacant eyes. Two sets of vacant eyes. I looked over here and I was like, oh, he didn't get it. I looked over here, I was like, oh, he didn't get it. I was like, I need to say more. And that's like another like thing where like either I could say, oh, I'm a failure. I didn't get it to these guys to where they understood it. But I could, instead of sitting and wallow in my failureness, I just gave it that little extra push that maybe, I mean, all you needed was time. So I could have just let the time sit.
which I
I
wasn't.
don't, you probably just needed nothing.
I just needed the gesture. But now I'm
Yeah.
just imagining you actually choosing to wallow and me and Trevor just staring at you
Yeah.
while you just like put your head down.
I'm a failure.
and Prem just like lean in. You- turn,
That's someone's nightmare.
turn your swivel chair around for the next 5 minutes. You can
Yeah,
turn it
you're
so you don't-
grounded. Yeah, when you better think your thoughts and words, do it better now. Then you come back here. Oh gosh.
You're sitting on that side of the drum set.
Yeah.
The mic will just pick you up very far away.
I'm sorry, guys. Can I come back now? Oh,
I
okay.
mean, we didn't shame Prem for mispronouncing communication, though. He took care of that.
Yeah, that was accountability.
But I mean, like when you shine a light on this thing, not only do you see how much of how much it influences us in a negative way.
Wow, I can't even say influence. You
Yeah,
suck, dude.
how much it influences
You should
us
try harder.
in a negative way, but also how much we do have agency over it when we're aware of it. When we have an awareness of it,
Yeah.
I can speak frankly when I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
But when I forget, I start to add. It's kind of like this. It's I don't necessarily believe this, but whatever. And you get into the cycles of when you're in the forgetfulness, you're doing the dumb stuff that hurts you, and when you're aware of it, you're doing the stuff that helps you free yourself from those things.
Yeah.
Like I feel since we've been shining a light on this, I'm remembering that like vulnerableness is key, that frankness and openness is key, that there is beauty in that. And when I'm forgetful, I want to close myself off. I want to soften in my speech. I want to do these things that'll make me feel like good little boy who's all secure and safe and nobody has access to it because I'm here in my little blinder zone, safe and sound, where none of my thoughts get out and no one can judge me. Hell yeah, brother.
That's another thing you've been saying a lot. Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, brother.
Is that something you used to say at camp?
No,
Because I've
it's
noticed
Hulk
it comes out. It's Hulk Hogan. I noticed it comes out after a camp anecdote.
oh, maybe.
Like that's like whenever you say it like in a conversation, like a separate or the subsequent conversation,
the first time it comes out is after a camp anecdote.
I think I say it when I
Interesting
like
observation.
something.
Huh?
I think I say it when I like something.
You do like camp.
And I like myself, so I think it's
That's
more
so
been
camp.
well. It's been more of like, oh, I say something that I vibe with very well, and so
And
I
so
vibe
therefore
with it.
you then go on to say, hell yeah, brother.
It's like a self affirmation a little bit, yeah.
Something pleases me. Hell yeah,
Oh
brother.
yeah, brother. Yeah, it's a little self affirmation.
Hell
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
brother. um, I think what you said was a good formulation of, I think, much of what we've talked about thus far.
Right.
Insofar as you described the relationship, I think, pretty well. Is there anything else to be said or picked at or tied up with regards to tryhardism? I mean, there's plenty, of course, but from what we've sort of opened up.
Yeah, I didn't even like have a good idea for like the depth of it going into it, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
And like just good like conversation form I like to have, like the problem where we see it,
Right.
different places where it goes, and then
Right.
kind of like so let's be productive, what do we do? But
Right.
I mean, I think we've kind of like trickled that in there.
Yeah, I'm horrible at that sort of stuff.
I mean, I think
Well, I'm
We
a
laid out-
contrarian, so like I
no,
see,
you're not.
Yeah, I am.
See that, folks? You like that? You like that one?
I so like if Trev like
That
in
was
that
good.
way, that was really good. In that way of like, oh, there's kind of like a way that I like to see this going, or like, let's be productive or something.
Mhm,
Or like, if there's a way that something is going,
mhm,
I like to see how people are wrong.
mm.
What, like,
You like the picking.
I'm a derailer, I'm an
Yeah,
uprooter.
yeah.
That's actually come up a lot in conversation lately, is how I've been kind of a menace for a lot of people in my life, of like not allowing. The metaphor that I use is like if we were on a teeter-totter and
Mhm.
someone was sitting at the midpoint and was like, I want to come down so my feet are on the ground, I would put pressure on my side to lift them up more.
Mhm.
That's kind of how I've acted in my life,
But you're lifting them up.
lifting them up.
Well, I
Not
think
as much to you guys because of the interesting relationship where there's more of a respect, I guess, maybe. I don't know.
or maybe we just know how
necessarily.
to navigate it better.
Yeah, probably. I think you don't let me get away with as much shit.
Yeah, I don't think you respect us any more than you respect other people.
Right, that's true. I don't respect you guys at all. Yeah.
I mean, I think even though the journey of this conversation is a bit mishmashed of that formula, I think the formula was still there.
Oh, yeah,
Insofar
it
as
worked.
Oh yeah, I mean,
The practicality of it is, I think, the baseline again of the sort of
Yeah,
operating with vulnerability.
Trev did that. Trev-
Yeah, you helped us sew that stitch. Sew that stitch.
The dog's name is Stitch.
The dog's name is Friday, actually.
you can't tune a horse named Friday.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
that's my favorite phrase.
No, just the reason I said it's like, oh, anything else on this is like, then at that point I like to check in, like, did we totally
You do your-
neglect any of those
Yeah.
parts, and then I'll
Yeah.
like, well, phrase this question. So
Sure.
I don't think that any of that was really missing this time.
Yeah, and I will continue to talk until you cut me off. So
Yeah.
I'm the tugboat for the sanity ship.
yeah.
Yes, that's right.
You're pulling
That's
me into
right.
port.
Or a lighthouse, which is the better metaphor there.
And
Well, I think
timely
Prem,
for
Prem
today
is
because
lighthouse, but you're totally tugboat.
Lighthouse and tugboat, that sounds like we're part of like a heist team and we have code names. Be like, all right,
tugboat.
Sanity ship, lighthouse, and tugboat.
all right,
Wait a minute.
tugboat, this lighthouse sanity ship is heading your way.
Lighthouse, we have a problem. Sanity ship is trying to go back out.
I've lost visual.
Sanity ship, do you copy? Sanity ship, do you copy? Universe.
Can you see a lighthouse?
Lighthouse?
Light is everywhere.
Yeah.
Man.
I do think timely metaphor though, because I think one part of this is how we can serve as lighthouses for
Oh my
people
God,
around us.
You're a motherfucker.
And I think one thing about that in general is when you're trying to serve as ambassadors for someone or a sort of grounding force for someone is the key part is the openness and vulnerability insofar as you only know what you think you know. You can't, again, you cannot perfectly prescribe what you think someone is doing or how they're behaving. You can try to think, oh, they might be, you know, being defensive or they might be afraid of success or whatever. Any of the sort of threads we've identified that kind of derail people from wanting to embrace life, wanting to celebrate the wins they achieve, wanting to, you know, be in themselves. But you can at least be open in yourself in how you've tried to deal with that.
Yeah.
And be explicitly open with people insofar as you're doing that with them. You're not explaining, oh, here's what I did. You're just doing the thing.
Right.
You're turning around after you pissed on yourself and you're saying, hey, this happened, but I'm gonna go change. I'll catch you guys in a few minutes.
Right.
And next thing you know, you guys are shooting the shit.
Shooting the shit.
So if there's nothing else, that I think is the most baseline, actual practical thing that we can try to practice.
Be an advocate for other people. Be a advocate for everyone else.
Yeah. Because if the thing is, I think
I'm on your side.
well, I think an important thing here is that a lot of things like this, it kind of erases your own well-being or your own sanctity. But to be a successful advocate for others means you are so comfortable with yourself that you're still dealing with these anxieties and frustrations or whatever because, again, we're all human doing it. But to get to that point of comfort means you're dealing with it.
Sorry,
You are okay with it,
Yeah.
you know? So if that can be a goal for all of us, at the very least, we'll hopefully be more comfortable with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully we get to the point that we're comfortable with each other. And I think if all of us have that on our minds, we're all liberating each other at the same time.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, well said.
Double hell yeah.
Brother.
We did it. We won.
Well. Hey, congrats on winning, by the way.
Yeah, congrats on winning.
Hey, you did a really nice job.
You did
winning.
well.
All right, goodbye, everybody.
See ya, Mikes.
Yeah, Mike.
Good mics.